from view with the student. And we've got those bathrooms in the children's rooms where they can go to the bathroom by themselves. If they need help, buttoning or zipping or anything, just open the door, fix it, and they'll be fine. Never alone, and this one's kind of a tricky one. We are asking that a minimum of 2 approved adult volunteers, and approved adult volunteers means people who've been through this training, who've been through the background checks. They're required for every group of children, youth, or vulnerable adults at all Salida United Methodist Church activities. Stephen's ministry and congregational care can minister in a one-on-one situation because they have additional safeguards in place. And the way that we get around this for things like Sunday school or children's church where we only have one teacher in the classroom is that you're not really alone with the children. All of the doors have windows in them, and Selena or I are always walking around and checking, and you never know when we're going to check in your classroom and ask how things are going. We're there to help, but we're also there to make sure that you're not alone with the children in that sort of sense. Touch safety. At no time should an adult touch a child in an unsafe or inappropriate manner. And the best way that I can think to define that is if somebody else were to walk in and seeing you touch a child, if they think if that person walking in were to think it would be inappropriate, you probably shouldn't be doing it. It doesn't mean you can't hug the children. It doesn't mean that you can't pick them up, especially if they're small ones. It just means to think about how will this look and is this appropriate. Alcohol policy. This is sad, but this is in here. At no time should you be drinking if you're doing anything involving the children, youth, or vulnerable adults. There we go. Age difference. Except vulnerable adults, the youngest approved adult volunteer, and adult for our purposes means anybody over the age of 18, must be at least 2 years older than the oldest supervised participant. This means that a 19-year-old can't be considered an approved adult volunteer for something with the youth. They can be an approved adult volunteer for things with the children, but for the youth, they're not going to meet that requirement. So basically, you have to be 20 years old to volunteer with the youth as an approved adult volunteer. Okay, adult supervision ratios. We ask that there be 10 children to every 1 adult, and the youth supervision ratios, those are determined by the leadership of the youth according to the needs of the event. For some events, you're going to need more children, more adults than for others. Okay, travel. Overnight co-ed activities require both male and female approved adult volunteers or staff without exception. So when we had our walk-in for the children's Christmas musical, if it had been an overnight activity, we would have had to have both male and female approved adult volunteers who had been through this training. Approved adult volunteers and or staff who drive children, youth, or vulnerable adults must have a current driver's license and have valid auto insurance. You should have those anyway. We're just asking that if your license is expired, you don't drive anybody in a church capacity until you get that fixed. A single approved adult volunteer and or staff must be in each vehicle as long as at least 2 children or youth are in the vehicle. The exception to this is that you can be alone in the car with your own kid. We're not going to tell you that you can't do that. We actually had a recent situation where the M&M kids went on a trip to a nursing home, and on our way back, some of the parents had taken their own children home, and one car was going to have 1 child and 1 adult, and so we had to have a second adult ride in the car so that they weren't alone, and so we were following the policy. Okay, the nursery policies for our caregivers. Anybody that is hired to work in the nursery has to complete a screening process and undergo a personal interview. They're observed by the nursery director and also the director of nurture, that's me, while working with the children. One or both of us always stops by and asks how they're doing, what they need. We ask them that they wear a name tag and a smock so that they're easily identified. Access to a child while in the care of the nursery is limited to nursery personnel only. That means that if you are not a nursery worker, you cannot just walk into the nursery and start hanging out with the kids. You have to have a reason to do that. No one under the age of 18 is allowed to pick up a child from the nursery, including siblings. The exception to that is parents under the age of 18 who may pick up their own child. Okay, other nursery policies. Children are signed into their rooms, and we require the child's name, age, parent's name, adult pickup time, and time in and time out so that we know when the children were there. And they're also equipped with window doors that allow the parents visual access to their children at all times. So you can stand outside and see into those rooms if you need to. We also have a paging system in place for the nursery. Parents write down their phone number and it is either flashed on the screen or we can call them if needed. Okay, reporting procedures. This is really one of the big things. We have to follow the state of Texas reporting procedures as a church. If you spot non-compliance of any of the church's safe sanctuary policies, somebody not wearing their name tag, somebody going into a bathroom with a child, which would violate the not being alone policy, just report that to the nearest staff member. Raleigh, me, Travis, Lena, anybody you know that works on staff, you can report that to them, and we will make sure that that situation is taken care of, and we'll take appropriate action on that. If an accident occurs, we ask that you fill out the accident report form, which are in your handouts. There's one that says accident report form, and it just basically asks what happened and did we contact parents. That comes in handy, say, at Vacation Bible School if somebody gets hit with something or somebody gets hurt in some way, shape, or form. We can give a copy to the child's parents so that they know that we know what happened and what steps we took to make sure that the child was okay. And also so that the staff and the appropriate adult volunteers are aware of what happened. And so you can find, we've got them in all of the Sunday school classrooms. They're here in the YAC. For Vacation Bible School, they'll be in all of the VBS areas. For youth trips, I'm sure that Matt will make sure that we have some with us so that we can report any accidents. We're not talking about you've got a paper cut. That doesn't count. Just wash it, put a Band-Aid on it, and they'll be fine. We're talking like they're going to have some visible injury, bruise, something like that, so that we can make sure that that's taken care of, and so that we can make sure that we can contact the parent if we need to. If abuse is encountered in progress and the situation allows for you to safely bring it into the situation, you can do that. If it's going to put you in danger, we ask that you call the authorities, the appropriate authorities for that, because we don't want two victims. One is bad enough, two would be even worse. If you observe or suspect that abuse has occurred or is occurring concerning a child, youth, or vulnerable adult, you must immediately report the abuse orally or in writing to the pastor. If for some reason Travis isn't here, you can report that to the nearest staff person and we will make sure it gets to the pastor, but you will have to stay with us while we carry out that process. From there, Travis will take immediate action. A written report will be made on that, and the report of suspected abuse is also in the handouts, and that is what we will fill out. And it does require a part where if you suspect or know that abuse is going on, something that you have to fill out. And it lets you know that you'll probably also have to talk to the authorities about that. If abuse is suspected or observed, a report, it will be reported to the State of Texas Family Services. The phone number is in this. There's also a handout in the flyers, or in the handouts that I gave you. It's also, Travis has got one in his office. There's one up in the crow's nest. They're in all the Sunday school rooms. There's going to be one in the YAC that's got that phone number and website on it, because there's also a website that you can report it at. So you should be able to find that phone number or that website if you need to make a report. Okay. Questions, comments? And that's it, really. We don't have to do the rest. Anybody have any concerns? Anything? I'm here to